Hello everyone and welcome to FedRAMP in 5, where we discuss all things FedRAMP in about 5 minutes. Today's topic is on the newly released draft of the Authorization Boundary Guidance. My name is Jason Redding and I'm joined here today in-house with Mike Strohecker, and then we have Jackson Gorman on call with us. As you may know, the FedRAMP PMO has released updated guidance regarding the authorization boundary as of July 13th, 2021. Today, we hope to provide our expertise on some of the key changes that you should be aware of. The FedRAMP PMO is getting more transparent with their expectations of, the authorization boundary in general. And with that, there is a higher level of accountability for your cloud service offerings. So, Mike, what are some of those key changes that we should be aware of?
So, Jason, since the release of the boundary guidance draft, the PMO has really become more transparent about some of the things that were gray areas before. In our research, we have noticed big changes and impacts to the security of cloud federal metadata. And it's really defined with more nuance and categorization. The PMO also referenced low impact metadata, which they call corporate metadata. This is an area customers often look to us for guidance on. They ask questions like, where can I store my documentation? What kind of data can leave the FedRAMP boundary? The FedRAMP PMO really answers these questions in that boundary guidance at the end in Appendixes A and C. These sections include consolidated boundary guidance, as well as protection and hosting guidance for other federal metadata.
That's a lot to unpack, Mike. So let's start the discussion with the distinction between corporate and federal metadata. Jackson, would you mind giving us a rundown on the two and explaining why that distinction is so important?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with federal data in the cloud. FedRAMP defines federal data as any information that the system stores or processes that originates from or is produced for a federal government entity. Cloud service providers should account for and include within an authorization boundary all federal data populated or generated by a federal customer within their cloud service offering. And this includes metadata. According to the new FedRAMP guidance, there are two distinctive types of metadata that have their own security considerations: federal metadata and corporate metadata. Examples of federal metadata would include configuration data such as host names and IP addresses, scanning data from your continuous monitoring efforts, security documentation like the system security plan and contingency plan, as well as incident response data such as active incident response or investigations. Lastly, ticketing information with system-specific information should be considered federal metadata. This data, if compromised, could impact the confidentiality, availability, or integrity of the system. Additionally, federal metadata, which could reveal security posture of your system, such as authorization boundary diagrams or any other information that could potentially be sold for a profit, must reside within the authorization boundary. In our experience at Infusion Points, storing and encrypting this information in transit and at rest is vitally important. Also, your cybersecurity mechanisms need to come with a strong and highly scrutinized narrative to comply with FedRAMP security controls. Now I'd like to take a little bit more of a look at corporate metadata. Examples of low-impact corporate metadata include things such as sales data, IT performance data like virtual machine utilization or virtualization metrics in context of the cloud, project planning information or pricing data. And while corporate metadata pertains to processes within the FedRAMP authorization boundary and may pertain to federal customers, it should not contain any security-sensitive information that, if compromised, could lead to those levels I talked about earlier, impacting confidentiality, availability, or integrity of the system. Special attention should be made by cloud service providers to the ingress and egress of corporate metadata into and out of the boundary to prevent any data spillage or leakage and ensure you're compliant with FedRAMP security controls. I'm just scratching the surface when it comes to this distinction, but the FedRAMP PMO is really drawing a line in the sand on this matter, which is helping with those pressing questions our customers need answers to. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Jackson. Another area our customers really look to us for guidance on are their authorization boundary diagrams. As we work with customers, we notice that asking the right questions can really help them develop their narrative to more concisely describe how they're going the extra mile with their system security. The narrative surrounding the entire SSP needs a starting point. And according to the FedRAMP PMO, that starting point should be the authorization boundary diagram. It really is the foundation for which the rest of the SSP is built. We also need to keep in mind that the authorization boundary diagram is validated against the system inventory during any audit or 3PAO process. What I'm really trying to say, Jason, is that the gravity of the authorization boundary diagrams should really not be lost on any cloud service provider that's trying to attain their FedRAMP ATO.
Definitely. So to expand on that point, every customer diagrams differently. And despite the FedRAMP PMO becoming more transparent with their expectations, there are still a few gray areas open to interpretation. So a key piece of advice from us is to work with the third-party assessment organization, or 3PAL, to clearly understand what FedRAMP is expecting. Is there a prominent red border drawn across or around all, system components in the authorization boundary? And do you have a corresponding legend? These are some of the first steps in defining the authorization boundary diagram. And the network and data flow diagrams have also received more transparent expectations too. We've noticed that defining these clear paths of data flow between services is a little bit challenging for our customers, but establishing consistency across all three diagrams sort of helps establish a true north for the assessors to easily read and digest what exactly is being secured, tested, and hopefully authorized. All right, guys, it looks like our 5-ish is running low. So if you'd like to learn more, please check out our latest blog where we go into depth with diagram examples and our take on the changes in the authorization boundary guidance. If you'd like a link to that, it should be in the description below, as well as the new authorization boundary guidance itself. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at www.infusionpoints.com. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.